you know.
That
all
TOS
numbers.
public.
Yep.
TOS.
Yep, we will.
Yeah, history there.
Yep.
We know.
Diagnostics, I want to join.
I don't want an update, I don't want diagnostics, I just want to join.
Let me be part of your team.
I'm really good at paper.
She's a civil engineer.
Come on, you can do it.
Okay,
Yes!
you guys ready?
Seems like we're in the matrix.
Okay.
You rename the clicker for the, it's up there.
It will be, but I'm gonna use it down here first.
Correct.
Actually, I'll just, it's fine. Okay. I'm ready when you
Okay, I'm planning to call to order a regular meeting of the planning commission. Oops.
Oh, no, I said my.
I'm planning to call to order a regular meeting of the Planning Commission, but since we have a number of visitors from the Colorado School of Mines, I thought I'd like to invite one of you to come up and tell us why you're here and what your interests are. I think you're elected. If you could just tell us what your name is.
Howdy. I'm Elijah Chen from the Colorado School of Mines Senior Design Capstone Project with Simkis Development's mixed-use microgrid project that's just happening down the road. And we're here to advise and kind of consult and maybe make some schematics and designs. The development projects, like technical aspects, so energy use, water, utilities, things like that. Anything on the plat, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much, and
For sure.
welcome to our meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Now I can call to order a regular meeting of the Planning Commission. I think the roll call would be the first item.
Chairman Harper,
Here.
Vice Chair Rose,
Present.
Commissioner Vaughn. Here. Commissioner Whitty. Commissioner Barnes. Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Mojo.
Here.
Commissioner Gross.
Present.
Commissioner Shanahan. Here. We have a quorum.
That's good. Next item is approval of the minutes of our Planning Commission meeting on August the 19th. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the Planning Commission from August 19th.
I'll second.
I think we need a roll call again, don't we?
Nobody's on.
Oh. Anyone not approve? All right, it passes.
I think we'll declare them approved. Okay, the next item, I think this is a public hearing, isn't it? So the next item is an application to rezone lots 1 to 2, Block 2, and lots 1 to 2, Block 7 of the Minx Edition to, rezone it, Minx Edition to mixed use. I can open the public hearing, and it sounds like staff has a presentation that you would like to make. Oh, good question. Do we have notice of publication?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Renee Stavros, Planning and Building Director for the town. This evening, we are here presenting on a proposal to rezone lots 1 and 2, blocks 2 and 7 of Mink's addition to Superior. The applicant, Simkis LLC, is here and will deliver a presentation and answer questions after our presentation. The property we're looking at and discussing this evening is reflected on the map. It's 4 lots, approximately 0.64 acres, between Maple Street and Coal Creek Drive on First Avenue in Original Town. It provides excellent access to transportation services, amenities, 1 block to the west of the intersection of Marshall Road and McCaslin Boulevard, less than a quarter mile from the Superior Marketplace Shopping Center, less than a half mile from the RTD Park and Ride, and less than a half mile from the plaza in downtown Superior. Those are all represented by stars. Here's the civic space, downtown plaza, town hall, Marketplace and RTD Park and Ride. And here is the parcel that we're talking about this evening in red. Current zoning of the property, the north half of the property is zoned RL for low density residential, and the southern half of the property is zoned BC for community business. Adjacent to these properties is the gas station to the east and vacant commercial lots, a public park to the west, a commercial shopping center to the north, a single unit homes to the south. Other uses in the vicinity include government offices and a car dealership. The low and medium density residential and open space recreation, the Marketplace and Superior Town Center planned development are zoning districts in the vicinity of this property. This is your open space and recreation, low density residential in yellow, medium density residential in orange. This is all BC community business. And then the PD was on the previous slide. This is the Superior Marketplace PD to the north. The proposed zoning, MU zone district, is the mixed use zone district. It's intended to provide for residential, retail, office, and open space uses within a planned area, including multi-unit or single-unit uses in close proximity to retail or offices, and to promote compacted development, pedestrian circulation and integration, efficient vehicular access to centralized parking, and pedestrian scale development. The different uses provided may be mixed horizontally or vertically, which means either next to each other or on top of one another. These photos here are just to give you some ideas of what mixed use development might look like. This one on the left is mixed retail over offices on the ground floor with residential uses above or behind. And then on the right here, you have residential and non-residential uses integrated on a single site, but not in the same building. So they're one next to the other. Permitted uses in the mixed-use zone district include retail, restaurants, professional offices, hotel, dental and medical clinics, public government facilities, apartments in conjunction with businesses, childcare centers, and single-unit detached dwellings. Here you can see a table comparing the zone districts BC to MU. They're comparable, more efficient and pedestrian-friendly use than BC, the MU is, sorry. MU, the mixed-use development zone district has a similar maximum height is 40 feet. It's only allowed to be 3 stories versus 4 32-foot single unit detached residential units. the commercial max floor area ratio is greater in the mixed use zone district. It allows residential versus not allowing residential in the BC. It has smaller front setbacks and side setbacks between structures, or between lot lines, and then 0 between structures, and has the same 25-foot rear setback. So generally, you can see they're similar in character if you were developing them, either BC or MU. The table on the right, you can see floor area ratios of buildings compared to the size of the land that it's built on. What's not over here is the building area. So this is 25% floor area ratio on 25% of land. It's not possible to build 25% on 50% of the land. So that's, you can see how development floor area ratio looks as you fill parcel areas or lots. So when you're looking at a commercial development of 1.5 for floor area ratio, you have 1.5 here. It would only allow 3 stories. So 1, 2, 3, and that would, it looks like it would be about this. So this is what would be allowed on the site. You can't cover an entire site with buildings in the zone district. So generally speaking, you'd be looking at something less than 50% covering all of the lot, and the floor area ratio of 1.5. Section 1620-40 of Original Superior is a little bit ambiguous as to whether or not properties in original town can be rezoned to MU. But since it's unclear how the section of the code is meant to be implemented, it's consistent with the spirit of the code to protect the residential character of original town in order to incorporate mixed-use zoning as a buffer where existing residential uses and zoning transition to existing commercial uses and zoning. The photo here is a picture of 602 Maxwell Avenue in Boulder, which is a good example of how the mixed-use form can fit into a residential neighborhood. You can see this is a mixed-use building right next to a residential property. Staff analyzed the code criteria for rezoning a property and found that although the comprehensive plan of 2012 didn't recommend mixed use for these properties in particular, rezoning these properties to mixed use does meet some of the goals outlined in the comprehensive plan, including providing a balanced mix of land uses, varied housing options, maintaining the character of original town, which by promoting a human scale and pedestrian-oriented development, and protecting the existing residential uses. If the Planning Commission finds the application meets criteria for rezoning, staff has included a resolution recommending approval to the Town Council for rezoning lots 1 and 2, Block 2, and lots 1 and 2, Block 7 of Minks addition to Superior to mixed use. And then, do you want, you can ask me questions now, or we can hear from Scott Simkus, the applicant, and then he can present some. He doesn't have a huge presentation. He has I think he has some things to share with you, and then we have one like site plan that is a concept site plan. It's not necessarily what he'll propose or do, but it just gives you an idea of what this might look like on the site. So it's.
Does anybody have a question that they would like to ask?
All right. All right. I guess we could rotate this for you, Scott. There you go. This is, and then there's that. So if you want, so you can scroll or you can use
Arrow down,
the
okay.
arrow.
Okay.
So for your presentation, you can do that. If you want to go to your concept, it's in,
It's
under
in-
the
it's in-
PDF.
it's in the
It's
line
right
down there,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, thanks, Renee.
Do you want to do a, we could go like this. There you go.
Good evening, planning commissioners. My name is Scott Simkus of Simkus Development. I'm a resident of Louisville, Colorado, and I have an office in Boulder, in downtown Boulder. I've been a resident in Boulder County for 31 years. And and I've been a developer for the County Housing Authority for 13 years. Prior to that, I was a city planner outside of Chicago, handling their housing affordability programs and policies. I wanted to kind of mention, if I could, all of the students from the Colorado School of Mines are not here. We've got 6 of them, but we were missing 3. And I wanted to kind of represent the diversity of engineering students. It includes electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, construction engineering, environmental design engineering. Did I leave anything out? That said, it covers them all. There's some redundance, which is great. So they got a really great pool of exceptional students. Their resumes were equally impressive. So this all resulted from the 2025 Capstone Expo, where companies are invited. You have to, meet this test to get invited. And then my company was one of the only, I think, housing developer presenting in 132 different companies during the day of the expo. And I guess these students thought what I was doing was pretty interesting, and I got the nod from the staff at the faculty saying, "Yeah, you've been selected by 9 students, so hurrah!" So, and then one of their faculty advisors is not here, Lisa Woodward, right? And then there's another physics professor that's expressing interest to jump into the team as well from the School of Mines, and that'll come later if we decide to go down that path with other things that may happen if we get our zoning tonight. So with that said, I'll just move through this. So these are some major bullet points that represent some of the deliverables, very high level, that if we're successful at achieving our ideas and our vision for this site. And I say our vision because I've already introduced the students to kind of some narrative context of what I'm looking to accomplish with the land that I've owned for 4 years on one of the lots at 102 Maple, and for 2 years on the 101. So my company was impacted by the fire. I was supposed to close on 101 Cold Creek the day of the fire. And so that prevented me from being able to close. And for 2 years, I waited for the lot to get cleaned up, and I chased down the person who bought the lot out from underneath me. Instead of getting it on December 31st, I had to kind of do some creative negotiating and secure that lot to get the entire bulk of the block from Maple Street to Cold Creek Drive. So quite an achievement to do, but I was lucky. There's a neighbor from the original town who was very happy to make the sale back to me for an added profit for him, but it was worth it. So anyway, these are the 4 major bullet points: economic development, trying to represent some opportunities around workforce housing. Wildfire resiliency is obvious. Energy resiliency is a deliverable we'll hope to achieve if we can create a microgrid. And then opportunities to increase tourism and outdoor recreation based on some of the desired goals that we want to achieve for the site. So that'll come later, but these are just some tantalizing opportunities that I see on the horizon if we can achieve what we want to achieve. So this is just kind of a screenshot, that's me sitting right there, because I live in Louisville and watched that dreadly night. My neighbors lose their homes on the south side of Harper Lake. Okay. This is just kind of recapturing some of the things that occur as a result of wildfires. Temperatures rising, snow melts sooner, forests are drier and longer and continuing to burn. And I think we had some other big forest fires this summer on the western slope. And of course, we all know the history with Lahaina and the LA fires. So this just represents kind of the collaborative model that represents the Seeds Collaborative. So when I have 3 businesses. The one at the top is the nonprofit. That's what generates the relationship with the university. And that acronym is spelled out right there, social equity, economic development for sustainability. And then I've been in touch ongoing with the staff at NREL, and they're very interested in discussing further their opportunity to collaborate as well. So I keep them up there. Note there's a star there. They're not secured yet, but they are very interested. Of course, there's the School of Mines. And then my other company is an energy cooperative I created. And that's for receiving and operating the microgrid if we decide to get that far, if we can accomplish that. Another fancy term for an energy cooperative that you'll hear with regard to the Public Utility Commission is aggregated virtual power plants. This has been a goal of the city of Boulder for a long time. And that was ultimately the reason for why I set up the energy cooperative, so I can try to achieve a virtual power plant at this location, right? So it's small. It's just basically you're creating your own power, storing it on site, and then you're using it within your buildings, and any excess energy that you generate throughout the day is sent to the grid, kind of level off their demand. And then this last one is the Seeds Energy Cooperative. This is just a little ADU I built in my backyard in Louisville during the time of the pandemic. I was able to utilize some unused construction materials, and when I did this, I actually built it for my mom, and she never took me up on it, but it was fun. It was a labor of love, and it represents kind of an idea of what you could do. This is before the ADU ordinances ever got passed by the state. I was, because of my planning background, I was able to look at lot coverage ratio and determine, well, how much of a little accessory could I put on my backyard? And it turned out it was 200 square feet would fit, and that's exactly what this is. So it's kind of a fun little project in the backyard. And that house, that little tiny house, does have a kitchen and a bathroom, and it has a loft, and it's fully plugged into the utilities with the water and sewer and power from the main circuit breaker on the main house, on my main Louisville house, which is only about 35 feet away. That's just another picture of it. Again, this is all a lot of extra construction materials that I received from a client of mine, where it was a $15 million home I managed and built for another company, but I was the PM, the project manager on that. It's a $15 million home. And instead of these materials that were never used going to the landfill, I said, well, let's build an ADU out of them. So this is the inside, some of the extra unused skylights, and creatively using that tiny space of 200 square feet. And a lot of these materials are all recycled from Resource in Boulder, the Resource used building materials. Okay, now into the project. So here we have just a short, little top down looking at the site, the 2 lots. This is before the fire, obviously. So many of these structures are gone. But I'm showing this one in particular because there's a Phillips 66 gas station directly to the east of my site on the 102 site there. And then, of course, the 6-lane Marshall Road, which will eventually be widened, I think, under a grant that's pending with that's been approved with the city, I think, to add another right turn lane, I think is what's going to happen there. I think this is what Renee already showed, the zoning, so this is kind of redundant. This is just a kind of all the different businesses around the site, right? There's the site. And as Renee said, the site is only 915 feet from the RTD site. So kind of important, but it does show the city ownership of the land south of the gas station that was just acquired with additional lot that was bought from the Asti family. So now the town owns this entire block here, and there's opportunities to collaborate on a kind of a design objectives, big kind of master planning in the future if the town is interested in doing that. I'm open to it. So this site plan just demonstrates what could be built as a use by right. So I call this an innovation and wellness center. That's just kind of a title I put on it because I wanted to call it something, right? And that represents the BC lot and what I could build based on what Renee was saying. And then, of course, these are double wide lots, you know, and these would represent a single family and ADU, right? The exact size of the ADU would be maybe a little smaller, but that's just about 50% of that lot, or 40% of the lot coverage ratio there as displayed here. But I think really why I showed this is because of the nature of the gas station being right here, and as people exit the car wash, you know, headlights will be gleaming into these homes, and just doesn't feel like a good optimal use of the site based on what's possible. If we got mixed use, we got a much greater opportunity to be more creative and create continuity between the two lots. So that's just kind of a high level display, and some of these little features that are shown in here represent some of the attributes that, you know, I hope to include in a future development site if we get the mixed use. And these things are like a cold plunge and a sauna. It says Innovation and Wellness Center for a reason, because I'd like to create a destination where people could focus on their health. There's a building in Lafayette as you're leaving, going eastbound on Baseline out of the town of Lafayette. It's just where the old grain silo is at. They have a health and wellness center, almost exactly the size of this building. And it's called the Silo Wellness Center. So when I saw that, it was a kind of an interesting comparable to the edge of town, but a very high visibility corridor, but also a rectangular shaped wellness center. So it kind of gave me an interesting idea. And that's kind of our starting point, just to talk about in general form, you know, what can we do with the land as it's zoned currently? And then these are just the improvement survey plats that I had to pay for to make sure that we were exact about, you know, the total square foot area, the location of the alleyway that dead ends into the east side of the SD Park right here. So, and you can see this when you drive by the site. There's a wire fence there that was left over from the prior owners. And then this is where the city just bought the additional lot from the SD family. That's the gas station. I think you all know where this is at, so. And then this is just a formal rezone plat that's required. Important piece to this is that if we were to receive the rezoning approval tonight and then town council in October, you know, I'd have to sit and talk with staff a little bit, work with staff about making sure that we don't record the rezoning until after I reconstitute my financing, as I've been financing this land all this time with 2 different notes. And I want to make sure I stay in compliance with my notes. So there's details of my promissory notes that I don't subdivide until, you know, I pay them off. And so I have financing banks looking at this now, a couple of different lenders. So I've been working on all that behind the scenes while engaging with the universities. And this is just, the town board updated their goals in July of this year. This says adopted July 2024, but I think it was on June 14th, the town update had a work study session, and a lot of other priorities came out of that in the form of a memo that staff wrote. But this was the goals that were accompanying as an exhibit to the updated town board goals. And I put green stars by those that I believe were in alignment with as it relates to it. If we were to get our mixed use zoning, we believe that the quality of life in this area would be improved, which is an important goal for the town. The Marshall Fire, this would be an obvious recovery demonstration post-fire. And then realize the town's sustainability action plan that was adopted in 2022. This would help further that along because there has been really slow progress. They make strides in that sustainability plan. And so we believe we could help kind of capture some of those opportunities with carbon reduction efforts in our site planning. And then we have enhanced financial stability and business retention. This is an obvious one, but I'll explain it. With the opportunity to get mixed use, we can expand the business opportunity and generate more revenue and bring more people into this part of town that currently are not coming because it's vacant land. And this could help add more sales tax revenue for the new downtown, or more interest in the new downtown. So there's a challenging situation happening along Main Street with retail in the vacancy rate there. So we believe that this could help improve on that a little bit. And then my star didn't line up really well, but engaging residents through outreach and marketing. So basically different advisory groups that down the road we can engage with, that being the sustainability plan, the economic development planner. You all have a new economic development planner or director. And my intention, if we get the zoning, would be to follow up with staff and keep engaging the staff to further these opportunities to help show how we can increase economic development. And then last one here, promote, manage, and identify redevelopment opportunities. So the town wants to develop opportunities in a timely manner by reconciling public and private interests to achieve the town's long-term vision as stated in the town's comp plan. And that's a 2012 comp plan, but it's a really important goal. So we believe that this project represents a connection and alignment with that goal. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Does anybody have questions for Mr. Simkis?
So the site plan that you showed, you described that as use by right. Do you have a proposed site plan that would be permissible under the zoning change?
The answer is I have some conceptual ideas I generated for the students, but I'm not prepared to talk about that because we haven't had a chance to sit down with the students to kind of understand what conceptually are some of these ideas. It's a mixed bag of ideas that I have. So the answer is no. We've got some, before I engage with the university, I have some really visionary ideas that I have, but not yet shared with the students to the extent that it would be considered a site development plan that we want to pursue. Because the idea here is to give them a chance to participate in that process.
Okay, I guess I'm just struggling a little bit as to what is the intended use of the property if you get the rezoning that you're seeking.
Well, I will say there's a variety of permitted uses in the mixed use zoning code in the Chapter 16 table of uses. Not all of those would be permitted uses that we would explore. I would say we would be open to discussing as a team at least a half of those I think there's like 8 different permitted uses. So we would carefully look at least half or more. There's a variety of good potential uses. So my whole purpose in this, bringing the universities, and the University of Colorado would likely also, they have a deadline to bring in their capstone students as well. But is to help give the students experiential learning. So if I jump ahead and say this is what we're going to do definitively, then they're missing out on this opportunity to engage about highest and best use and the purpose and the principle behind the experiential learning.
So would it be housing? Is it a nonprofit? Is it educational? Is it retail? Is it office?
I know there's a strong desire to get further detail from me on that. But I will say, this has been a very expensive venture for my company, and I'm into it $500,000 already, so of my own money. So I have to look at the for-profit side of things to make the numbers work on my pro forma, right? So to be specific, more specific than that, it would be premature for me to say.
Would it be accurate or fair to say that you're looking to have a single zoning for the aggregated lots?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Gross, yes.
Thank you.
Our town has a affordable housing goal, and we'd like to increase affordable housing units in our town. So by changing to mixed use, would you be able to increase the amount of affordable housing on these lots?
That's a very good question because it's driven by how the numbers work on a pro forma. Right now, we have no grants. We've not received any grants, and we've inquired. We would need support letters from the town of Superior to pursue grant money that might offer up an opportunity for some affordable. But right now, as it stands right now, this is purely on my bank account, right? And anyone will tell you, any developer, Kite Route, or anyone else will tell you that without subsidies like CHAFA tax credits, you're not getting any affordable housing done, right? Or you get free land, if someone gives you free land, right? So I'm driving up an uphill battle to try and reach the highest and best use based on what's good for the neighborhood and what's good for my company. But there are components to this site plan that will certainly address housing as it relates to ADUs, right? So while there is opportunities potentially to demonstrate an ADU on the site, I can't say specifically how many and what that would look like, whether it be a fee simple or a leasehold situation, right? Because it comes back to the pro forma. How is that debt service going to be paid to do all this, right? And if I don't get deep subsidies and deep grants, then the numbers won't work, right? So this has to be something that's driven by what delivers the greatest return on investment while also balancing what delivers the greatest opportunity for the community is the highest and best use. So there's several categories that are permitted, right? Libraries, recreation centers, retail space, office, medical, hotel, all of those are in there, right? And so we're going to look carefully as a team, which make most sense, balancing the equation of servicing that debt and delivering the highest and best use.
I had one more. We don't have a lot of 3-story buildings in that area. Would you plan on going all the way up to 3 stories?
Again, it comes back to the analysis on the energy side, because part of what they'll be digging into is doing a demand load analysis, which is a fancy term for saying they'll look at the opportunities based on buildings orientation, building size, and there's a lot of different calculus that goes into that, the solar opportunities for the buildings, the thermal massing opportunities, the geothermal exchange. So there's all this due diligence that the team here will be digging into to determine, we need a little more building height to achieve the thermal mass that would get us to that point where we reach a critical mass of energy demand, so conditioned space, right? So I'm not going to pretend to be an engineer because I'm not, but that's a definite calculus that's driven by software that NREL and the Department of Energy, these students would be using.
I'm getting a sense, though, that we're a little premature. And so I want you to convince me as to why we're not. And the reason I'm getting a sense that we're premature is because we don't have an idea of what the property is going to be used for. Therefore, it's hard for me to justify at this time a change in zoning from what it is now to what you're asking for. And so I guess give me some reasons as to why we're at a point that either needs to be done or ought to be done in order to make the zoning change so that I can understand a little bit where we're headed.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes, it does, Commissioner. Yeah. So it's a heavy question to try and answer, but I'll do my best. One, I've been carrying this debt burden since the fire, right? And so that's a goal of the town to help expedite helping business recover. And I would hope that the board would see the urgency of my carrying this debt and this burden for this long. So that's a major urgency item, right? I hope that isn't underestimated because it's real, right? And two, the students garnering this kind of response from the School of Mines is very rare. and they have a set amount of time that they're allowed to participate in a capstone event like this. And so I want to optimize that opportunity for them academically. But I think, moreover, the largest, biggest urgent matter is based on the economic conditions that are occurring in the county, in the town of Superior, so as to take advantage of the rates that are trending downwards right now, right? So not often do we get this opportunity, as we all know, for the last 3 years, interest rates have been going up. They've been climbing up, right? So if we could get ahead of that by aligning the timing as it relates to the critical path with the interest rates that are happening in the market at the time when we'll pull down our construction financing, that's everything for this project, right? So if we forego that opportunity because we want to get into further detail or examination of the what ifs, well, they're here to help examine the what ifs, right? So I would feel that would be a huge disservice, not only just to the community, but to me as a business owner and a resident who have been holding these lots together for the purpose of improving over the blighted condition that it's seen over the last 3 years, right? So it's kind of looking kind of blighted down there, in the area because it's been empty forever, right? So I feel like this is a great opportunity to help assuage some of the anxiety from the people who lost homes, but also give them something positive to feel in this part of town that would be a real benefit, a real neighborhood asset if we achieve the mixed use to achieve ultimately what we'd like to do in the way of this microgrid or this wellness combination wellness center. I do have a video, in case this came to this, a 3D video that I generated. Again, I was reluctant about presenting that because I didn't want to get wrapped around the axle on this prematurely, right? For that reason, I told Renee I'm not really sure that it's a good idea, but I'll bring it just in case, because the big caveat in that is it'll generate 1,000 more questions, right? And that's not the intention of that. It's just the intention of giving the students a chance to see what's possible, right, if we were to achieve the mixed-use zoning. So I do have that video, but I would caveat, again, that it'll probably generate another 100 questions, and we could be here all night, and then, that would set us back. I've already been set back 3 years because of the FEMA cleanup. So I'm trying to hit this in stride based on national economic conditions, interest rates, cost of materials, just keep going up. And I've got great momentum now with having the students involved and the rates going down and having both lots after losing one of the lots through the fire. So there's a lot of urgency here.
So I have a couple of questions. First, you mentioned, I certainly appreciate the educational opportunity of the capstone. What is the time period for that?
It's a full year, 2 semesters, right, gentlemen, ladies?
2 semesters, okay.
9 months.
9
Okay,
months.
great, so the full school year. You've mentioned ADUs several times. And if you were thinking of affordable housing, are ADUs something that you realistically might include?
Yes, that is a realistic possibility. And I'll tell you this, I think it's relevant now that I share this. I was invited to the Colorado Homeland Security Conference in Loveland it was like in February of this year. And I went and I met people from the Colorado Department of Homeland Security, and their purpose in being and having this conference was to talk about wildfire recoveries. How does the state better prepare for wildfire events or even power loss events, right? Because of the trend that's happening, it's going to continue with all the power on the grid. So these data centers that are being generated for AI are going to continue to deplete the existing grid. So this becomes important to the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services from that perspective. So I filled out online a notice of interest with the Department of Homeland Security. And they responded in the affirmative, say, hey, we like your idea of building a microgrid for these reasons that I just said, right? Wildfire demonstration recovery and addressing the the intermittence nature or the loss of power, right? That's happened 9 times in this area. So there were 9 power outages in 2024, 9. And so when you start adding that up and you start adding it, looking at the net effect on those people who are most impacted by that, you have a large senior population in Superior. Well, those people are they're more vulnerable to those short-term power outages because some of them may be on oxygen, right? And they need their power. And then others may lose their groceries and they can't afford to replace those groceries they just lost. So from that sense, we're trying to create this microgrid that will address these vulnerable issues, these vulnerable populations. And so to go further, the ADUs could be a demonstration on how do you build a grid, net zero microgrid capable ADU that can be replicated all over the town of Superior. So from that sense, there's a real deliverable that, well, I don't want to talk about it too much because we're at the beginning stages of this.
Right.
But I already know, as I built one in my backyard, right? I know it's possible. So I've built a relationship with a local manufacturer here in Louisville who builds ADUs, right, for this very purpose. So the timeliness of the lack of attainable or affordable or housing that meets the needs of intergeneration for seniors, as well as young kids getting out of school and can't afford to find a place to live, couldn't it be better, right? So from that perspective, building ADUs on this site and demonstrating what the cost factor is, what the energy performance is again, very timely.
Okay. Renee, can I ask you a question? Just in terms of, I know we have guidelines around ADUs attached to, well, not attached, possibly attached, but associated with single-family homes. What kind of options are there for ADUs or tiny homes or other kind of small-scale housing that might be part of a mixed-use development?
That's an interesting question. So it depends on what if you want to, the mixed use would allow him to build a variety of residential or commercial uses on the property. There's not like a limit to the number of buildings. So what you would call an ADU could be a detached single unit dwelling, and for the purpose of whatever his goals are, they could be leased or however he uses those for on the lots as a whole, whether he subdivides them later individually for single family use, or I don't know. There's a lot that he could do with a mixed use. If both of those properties and all 4 lots are zoned mixed use, then he can build on each of those individual lots. He can combine the lots. He can do lots of different things. So he hasn't submitted a replat for the property, which I'm sure he would if he gets the rezoning. And then also he would have to do a site development plan through planning and zoning and the town council for anything that's not single family development or duplexes. So our code requires a site development plan for properties that are not developed as single family or duplexes. So I guess my point there is that whatever he does propose would have to come back to you all for review and approval if it's not a single family or duplex.
And at that point, how much discretion would we have? I know very often we're in situations where, okay, if you hit these benchmarks, you hit these guidelines, then it's really our duty to approve.
Sure, and you would have that. So it would depend on what he was proposing, what you have, kind of like an FDP process, like you have certain things that you have to say okay to and some that you can question or request more information on. I mean, I guess that from the staff's perspective, the difference between what's allowed in the mixed-use development versus what's allowed in the BC and RL are not significantly different to the point where zoning them both for mixed use made sense from like a whole original town perspective. Like the way that mixed use is discussed by the character of the development, he would have to comply with that. And so like some of those questions that you were asking, you know, you'd be able to, even if he's submitting something that's 40 feet, does that make sense from a characteristic perspective when you come back to that site development plan? Like, is his proposed uses and those, and whatever the building looks like at that phase, does that meet that characteristic of that mixed-use development in original town, which was the impetus for the rezone in the first place? So what does it say? Like, promote compact development, pedestrian circulation integration, efficient vehicular access, pedestrian scale development. So those are the things that mixed-use development says in our zoning code. So even though you have like height requirements and setbacks that like if he meets those, he can technically, like, you can't say no. You can say, you can question some of those design elements because of the location of it and the zoning of it.
Okay.
I don't know if that, you know, that was a really long-winded answer to like your question and then some.
Yeah, well, I certainly see the efficiency of having one zoning for the 4 lots, you know, just for practical reasons, as opposed to having, you know, oh, this side has to be residential, and oh, that is the side that's by the closest to the gas station.
Right,
you know.
right, Commissioner Shanahan. Yeah,
So-
if I could say, you know, what Renee is saying is exactly right. You know, I mean, I would have to come back in with a full SDP plan that addresses traffic, addresses, a lighting plan, addresses traffic flow within the neighborhood, would have to address all the usual things that any SDP plan has to address. The thing here is this is not a PUD because it's too small, right? So what I'm trying to do is give the town an opportunity to kind of, I think, clean up a mistake, right? Because the RL really shouldn't be on an island by itself like that, surrounded by BC commercial zoning to the north and BC to the east and to the south. It's on an island and it's got a park next to it, right? So this opportunity presents itself as an opportunity to kind of reconcile the zoning, to give it a greater opportunity to do something creative with it than less creativity. So, you know, while I'm very aware as a city planner, you know, in my professional experience, the sensitivities around building mass and scale, right, and traffic impacts, that's what they're going to hear from me, right? And we're going to engage further with my professional team, my architect, my engineer, will be scouting out over, you know, their work as well as their professors, right? So, you know, to be concerned about it this early or at this juncture, I think might be a bit premature. I think, you know, while I respect any concerns that may be vocalized in this setting, you know, we're trying to capitalize on a lot of things. The urgency as it relates to interest rates, cost of construction, you know, the kind of the emptiness of the site, not being able to generate any revenue for the town and more interest to the town in an area that's carried a burden for a long time from the fire. The Irelands lost their house, as you all know. The Asties lost their house. You know, talking to Lisa Ritchie, she encouraged me to keep proceeding, you know, because she thought, and Renee did, thought that it was a good move to ask for mixed-use zoning. And that's why I'm here.
Ryan? I don't have any questions at the moment either. Do you have any more?
Yes. So, Renee, let me ask this. Part of this is RL and part of this is BC currently.
Yes. the northern 2 lots are RL and the southern 2 lots are
Or
BC.
BC. And so if they were all one of the other, RL or BC, all 4, then there could be, if they were all the same, then there's a common development concept that could be managed with having them all the same,
Sure, yes,
as opposed
generally.
to part of it being residential and part of it being commercial. And the mixed use, what I hear staff saying, what I hear you saying is that by moving both of these zoning into a mixed use gives the landowner the flexibility of doing both residential and both commercial, whereas under the existing plan, you can only do residential on the north half and commercial on the south half. Am I getting that right?
Yes, the uses of the MU are basically the uses and some additional uses than what's, like the RL is single unit. The BC has a whole list of commercial uses that are allowed.
Right.
The MU is some of those commercial uses, the single unit and like apartment
things.
or, like a flat above an office space or an office space above a commercial, or it gives more flexibility. Yeah, that's,
Thank you.
it doesn't, I will caveat, it doesn't mean that he has to do one or the other or both on any of them. It just allows for that.
And it opens up the entire
And it opens up the whole
piece
block
for
that.
development of both residential and commercial, or either residential
Right.
or commercial within the MU zoning.
Or you could put the wellness center in the middle and ADUs are on the sides. Like you could move
Yeah,
around.
depending on replat, I mean,
Yeah.
if he keeps 4 lots, then it limits things. If he replats it to be something different, then you're talking about a plethora of opportunities. There are lot minimum sizes and number of buildings, but it gets complicated quickly if you start talking about specifics, which is what he doesn't want to do for that very reason. But generally speaking, it allows for all of those different uses, and the lot configuration can change, but currently it's 4 standard lots.
And if I may say, one of the higher objectives, and I've shared this with the students, although we've only had one meeting, I've shared a lot of files with them, so they've done their homework. There's like 50 files I've sent them to read, right? So they're catching up and they're digging into it while they're doing their academics for their senior year. But I will say, one of the higher level objectives of this mixed use request or ask is that we want to create something very special in this neighborhood, right? Something it deserves because of the fire. And we want to do it in a way that honors the BC where the houses were lost by the Asti family and the Irelands. So even though we don't control or own that, we do believe that what we do could set into place an opportunity to complement what could come next in that very difficult corner next to the gas station, south of the gas station, right? The town tried to sell that for 3 years. I had to contract it on that land for before the fire. So that interrupted that from happening as well, right? So as a planner, I would like to master plan the entire site, right? But it's that's not why we're here. We're just here to talk about, why is it Scott's asking for, mixed use? Because I want to create something very special in this part of town that deserves something very special. The former mayor's house was, Mayor Asti for 30 years, right? And Mary Asti and her son and her brother, we had long conversations and they really supported it because I'll say this, one of the major other high profile deliverables that I always had in my head is honoring the coal miner history, right? My grandfather was a coal miner, right? So he came from Lithuania and made his way through Chicago as a coal miner. And then he worked in coal mine, Gillespie, Illinois, in a Little Dog mine. And I remember going to Chicago and seeing my grandfather who was walking around on one leg because he had a coal mining accident, right? But it stayed with me all my life. And so here now I'm in a coal mining town, and I can honor that history of Superior being a coal miner town. So it's a really cool opportunity for me to do something special based on my family history, but why I feel that's so important in this site. So I'll kind of send this out. Some of the architectural characteristics that I want to bring into this wellness center would mirror thematically from the industrial mine. So it would play on that history, right? What better place to do that from the History Museum, right? So there'd be continuity thematically as it relates to how the Asti Park is being used with the History Museum. It could continue that theme of educating, right, on the history that the industrial mine played, the importance the industrial mine played in this part of town, right? The coal miner camp. If you think about it, tiny ADUs can kind of mirror a miner camp, right? So if you think a little bit outside of the four corners of what I've given you, I know I recognize and apologize for not giving you as much as you want to hear right now, but I don't want that to backfire on me, right? So on purpose, I have to kind of stay somewhat nebulous and give you these attributes that I want to incorporate into the site based on its history and based on it thematically picking up the miner history, right? The little miner camp, the industrial mine building. So if you think about it, the building as its whole, the wellness center, could be a mirror of the industrial mine. No, I have a slide of showing what the industrial mine looks like if you want to see that. I wouldn't build that because it's just a coal tibble with a couple of metal corrugated structures attached to it. But in principle, that's what they're going to be doing with me. And they know what's in my head because I have to share some of these high-level visionary ideas.
More questions?
Renee, is it possible to explain to the commission what the allowable uses would be under the MU zoning designation?
It's in your. And I do have slides of the industrial mine in my flash drive in case this came up you want to see.
Oh, it's not on here.
not here.
It's in my,
It's in the report.
It's
yeah.
on
I
the-
was like, I wrote it down in my, it must be in my notes slide.
MU zone district provides for residential, retail, office, and open space uses within a planned area, including multi-unit or single-unit uses in close proximity to retail or office uses, and to promote compact development, pedestrian circulation and integration, efficient vehicular access to centralized parking, and pedestrian scale development. The different uses provided may be mixed horizontally or vertically.
And then they include, did you read retail, restaurants, professional offices, hotel,
Yes,
dental?
the
Okay.
permitted uses are retail, restaurants, professional offices, hotel, dental, medical clinics, public government facilities, apartments in conjunction with businesses, child care centers, and single-unit detached dwellings.
So in a way, it's a perfect fit for what we have envisioned for the site, picking up that architectural theme, that cultural history of the old industrial mine and the miner camp.
We have a couple of, well, I should ask, first of all, since you're in the, do you want to carry on? I was going to say, we have a couple of people online as well who I haven't asked if they want to ask questions yet. I'm not trying to cut you off.
No, I don't have any additional questions at this time.
Okay. Would any of your students like to comment? No obligation, but if you would like to, you can. Everybody seems to be passing, so I think I should go to, we have two people on Zoom. Laura Bennett, is there a question that you'd like to ask Mr. Simkus?
If so, just do raise hand.
Yeah.
Yes, if so, raise your hand.
Same for Lisa Woodward.
And Lisa Woodward.
And secondly, Lisa Woodward. If you'd like to ask any questions, please raise your hand.
We're good.
Nope.
I'm not seeing any hands being raised, so I think going, gone. Okay, I think since we're a relatively small group at the moment, I can just keep the public hearing open, right? And we could just start making comments and questions so that we can come back to you if we get into anything, or we can come back to Mr. Simkus if we get anything.
There was one other thing I wanted to mention I didn't want to leave out. So because this is a microgrid, that's our intention, it's a very small one, but it's a microgrid that if we achieve our goals, I investigated early on, how did Xcel Energy respond to that idea, right? So I formally wrote a letter to the board of directors for Xcel Energy, right? And then they put me in touch with, and I pursued getting in touch with the regional manager for Xcel Energy, Nicholas Cole. And Nicholas and I have had a subsequent conversation about, after my letter was sent to the corporate board of directors for Xcel Energy, and I did copy Lisa Ritchie on that exchange because they came up, right? And the affirmative, it was an affirmative response from Xcel Energy that, hey, this is exciting, we'd like to collaborate on this.
I mean, that actually raises a question for me. Every time you say microgrid, I'm just thinking in terms of power to this development, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. I mean, is the microgrid purely related to power, or does it have any additional features that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, typically of something of this caliber, you would want to find ways to bring in electric car charging, right? So this would bring in the idea of having a car charging station or two, whatever the budget could afford, or I would go after grants with the state because they're very proactive in that regard. I would pursue that to be incorporated within this site so that when the visitors, ideally we're trying to get people to walk to this site to make it a walkable site from the transit center, right? So that's the first lowest hanging fruit. But then you add to that the opportunity to incorporate electric bikes and electric cars where people do come, they'll be able to participate in our grid, right? And borrow that power, pay for that power to charge up their electric bike or their car while they're staying there, right? I haven't gotten that far in the math to figure out what that looks like, but that's part of our, our analysis and our future calculus with the electrical engineers for the School of Mines.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Simkus? I think you could take a seat temporarily, at least.
All right, thank you.
Does anybody have any comments or questions that they'd like to raise? David?
I have two comments.
Uh-huh.
One, I do see the logic. Oh, sorry. So I have two comments. I do see the logic of one common zoning for the entire, for the 4 lots, as opposed to having to work around the 2 different zoning designations. And I have to say, I kind of like the idea of modern tiny homes that mimic in some way the old coal mining town.
Sure. Yeah, I think this rezoning makes sense. It just makes it more uniform across the 2 lots. It puts I think mixed use is a good buffer in between what's commercial, which is the gas station, and residential, which is on the other side. I know he's not letting us know what he's putting on there, but if his previous, which was a wellness center and some ADUs, I think that sounds reasonable. I would just caution you to consider noise and light being next to residential in your future designs?
Ryan?
Yeah. I think at the priority of this application is providing flexibility for the owner, in that we can limit a little bit of the RL and BC constraints by rezoning. And I think flexibilities for our owners as we're rebuilding and improving the town is important. I like the idea of potentially getting rid of that RL island. I think that works. I think, I hope if this change were to occur that it would improve the walkability of the area, which I know is a priority of pretty much anyone in town. And I'm leaning for it. I do still question the urgency of the now. I question the urgency as we also just declined a recent application on Town 15 because we didn't know yet what the comprehensive plan would have entail. And though I know ownership is different with this site, I still think that we have to use the same objective view of, can we make this decision now? That is what is on my mind.
Lonnie?
I guess I'm still worried that that we're being asked to do something before we understand what the idea and the concept is going to be used for. I'm still concerned about that. Having said that, and I'm going to repeat what you just said, and that is that we're coming up with we're making a land use decision on a particular piece of property that a few weeks ago we decided that we weren't going to do because it wasn't part of the bigger plan. And so I'm a little concerned about that as well. But I look at the MU designation and I look at what's usable for both the BC and the RL, and the MU actually is something that gives us as the Planning Commission more control over what's going to be used, because other than single-family homes going in there, this has got to come back for a site development plan that we are going to see and be able to weigh in on as to whether or not we think it meets the then comprehensive plan, because I'm assuming we have a new comprehensive plan before the site development plan comes to us. Whereas doing other than developing one or two homes on the RL and then do something on the BC is something that we would have expected might have happened over the last 3 years, and it hasn't. And so while I am concerned that we're sort of putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, I'm also trying to figure out a way that gives us as the Planning Commission the flexibility of being able to weigh in on the SDP when it comes before us, which we would do, not for the 2 lots to the north because they're single-family homes, but only on the BC part. So if that sounds like I'm sitting on the fence, the answer is yes.
So my intuition says that regardless of what the applicant's intentions are with these properties, I think it makes sense to rezone them to MU, considering the location, the adjacencies, and the points that my fellow commissioners have brought up. I would be in favor of it.
I guess that leaves me, and oh, it's on. I have to say I completely sympathize with Mr. Simpkins' situation and all the good goals that you've expressed for this area. But I think it is premature. This is not actually the first application we've had to convert this property to mixed use. Back in April of 2020, we got an application to convert the 102 Maple Avenue site to mixed use, and it came with a concept plan. And the concept plan was for a 3-story building, ground floor commercial, residential above, combination of underground parking. And I tried to find the minutes of the meeting. We definitely had a meeting about it, but I couldn't find the minutes. But we rejected it. And I think, it was probably for a combination of reasons. But so I think before moving forward with rezoning this, I personally would be much more comfortable. In fact, I would really want to have some kind of concept plan that says what's going to be there, rather than just a list of the things that could be there. Because I'm not sure that what you want to do and what you'll be able to do are actually necessarily the same thing. And I admire your goals, and I have no doubt about your good intentions, but to what extent you can achieve those is actually an open question. And I would actually like you to be further down the road with what your plans are than at the moment. I think having a microgrid on any site is clearly a step forward in terms of providing power for it, but it's hardly the most important consideration for what goes onto the site. And that makes it very difficult for me to be in favor of rezoning this without a better idea of what's really going there. Sure.
Yeah. So in October 11, 2021, before the fire, I was the developer, presented the concept on 102 Maple for mixed use, for mixed use on just that lot, because I didn't own 101 yet. And then 3 months later, the fire happened and the little rental house burned down. So I'm aware of the history, and that's how long, I've been holding this objective to get a good plan in front of Planning Commission and ultimately Council, so they can move this forward. So I can't emphasize enough the impact the fire has had on me as a business owner, right? To try and get something in front of Planning Commission. Now, I was advised not to share too much because I would get wrapped around the axle on a conversation about the minutia that goes into an SDP. I'm fully prepared to let you see a concept 3D of what that site could look like that would support a mixed-use plan, if you want to see it.
I'll also add, since he's offering that, I know what you're saying. A concept plan helps visualize what he has planned on the site, but a concept plan at the time of rezoning without a site development plan doesn't do anything other than say, this is what I'm thinking about doing right now, but it could be completely different when he comes to a site development plan phase. So I think from Scott's perspective, he's tried to share what his vision and ideas are for the site to give you a sense of what he wants, without providing a site plan that may or may not look anything like that when he comes to a site development plan phase.
I understand that site development plans could look different, completely different from concept plans, but I don't think in most cases people will be trying to give us a concept plan that's radically different from something that they later provide as a site development plan. It makes sense that there would be some changes, but not that, he wouldn't come in and propose a hotel as a concept and then come back as an office building as a final development plan. And I wonder whether in fact, this site wouldn't be better rezoned as residential medium density or something like that. I think if you'd come in and said, I want to rezone this medium density, I'd have said, okay, we know what we know what residential medium density means. Mixed use is pretty much anything you like to build there, and if we've zoned it mixed use and you come in with something we don't like, but something that's permitted under all the various code things, we can say, well, we don't like the color, or can you change the roof line? But it's much more difficult to say, no, that's not an acceptable development in the town. We've been down that road before.
But you would, in response to that, you would still have the authority as a planning commission to.
So I think from my perspective, I just like to have it needs to be further along before I want to get into rezoning this property. I mean, I would really like to help you on this, but I think we're here really to protect the town's interest.
Sure. May I share with you this video?
No, let's not do that. I think we have, unless you really want to see that, I don't think it is necessary to see it right now. I think
it's necessary either.
if you are, the things that you're saying now would be great for your discussion without public comment, or by closing the public hearing so you all can discuss without. I think unless there's more questions, I think the deliberation that you're wanting to have makes sense, but without the open public hearing with our input.
I mean, as I said earlier, I left the public hearing open just so that we could come back with questions to you and questions. I realize it's not the official format for a public hearing, but it's such a small group of people that I think I'm hoping that. I just hope it would be helpful to the process.
Yes, I fully understand why.
But if you think, I mean, if I should close the public hearing before we go further, I'm perfectly willing to do that too. Okay.
And,
I'm not hearing anybody objecting.
Commissioner Harper, can I say one last thing, please? The site is within the TOD House Bill 241313, which makes it eligible as a TOD developable site. So I just want to kind of convey that as well, because that's kind of important to know. Because I've been working with DOLA, Department of Local Affairs, and the State Housing Agency, all about those Proposition 123 laws. So, so whether it's a TOD 1313 HB, or Senate Bill 24174, or 1202, 1252, the ADU ordinance, all of those roll up under current legislation that the governor and the state of Colorado passed as it relates to eligible sites within the radius of 1/4 mile. And this site is within 1/4 mile of the TOD site that picks up a lot of those legislative policies. Just kind of want to throw that out there, because that the opposite then would be, looking at what the opportunity could be for an apartment, a large apartment, affordable housing apartment, under those laws that are permitted by law.
Sorry, I mean, I know a TOD is a transportation. Is it really 1/4 mile? Less than quarter, or is it really less than 1/4 mile?
Yes, sir. It's 915 feet from the transit center. 1,320 feet is a 1/4 mile. So I'm within that radius. By law, as use by right, I would be able to utilize the laws that back up House Bill 241313 and the litany of additional laws to implement with the state behind me in that purpose. That's the alternative, one alternative.
So sorry, can you say what that alternative is again?
Yes, sir. Under the laws as it's codified under House Bill 241313, and then the other subsequent laws under Proposition 123, which address ADU, parking density, and a couple of others. This would be allowed for a large apartment, affordable housing apartment. And I would probably consider carefully selling it to an affordable housing developer to build that kind of affordable housing large apartment complex, because I spend so much of my money, and I'll get my money back really quickly if I were to do that. And I've got 3 buyers lined up who are very interested in buying that land for building a large affordable housing apartment there. And the level of affordability will be driven by their pro forma, and oftentimes, a site that small, you can't get enough units in a site that small, so you would have to really lower the low-income population that you would serve, right, to get grants that justify that servicing that debt. So I just throw that as another option that could occur by slowing me down on not that you have your job to pursue and your role as planning commissioners. I'm just offering up 2 alternatives here, and I didn't want to really talk about the other alternative, but it's real for me.
Well, I understand.
I work for the housing authority, so I know all about those.
I understand.
Those rules. So.
Oh dear, I think we've just, maybe I should have left the public hearing open a little out. Nevertheless, thank you for your comments, appreciate it.
One question before you close. The TOD housing, would that only apply to the residential lots? Or would that apply to the entire?
The entire site.
Okay, thank you.
Any vacant land that's developable, and I'm not an attorney, but in looking at the language of the House Bill 241313, it's pretty broad.
I'm done. Public hearing.
Oh, it's public hearing? Or
No,
No,
we're still public hearing.
No, I think I closed it.
Well, you
I didn't-
just.
I didn't hear the
No,
gavel.
you didn't close
Right,
it yet.
okay.
There we go.
Now
That's
it's
closed.
closed, sorry.
Okay, now it's closed, now it's discussion.
Yes.
The more perfect pursuit of best use. I think I'm in favor of this application for flexibility for the owner on the site and for future oversight, as Lonnie had laid out. But I am sensitive in my decision to speed to redemption of value for the owner and making sure that we can make this lot usable as quickly as possible and it be the right use. And I believe that an MU zoning designation would allow that to happen. Oh, I did not bring my phone, sorry.
Probably picked up on the Lonnie's mic.
I'm still concerned that this is premature and that we're at a stage where we're being asked to do something that might not even be necessary. And at the same time, again, coming back to our decision to weigh in favor of developing a comprehensive plan before we do any a rezoning. This is just another a rezoning, and I'm a little concerned about that. I think we're too soon. I think that I want to see more in order to make this. I can appreciate the fact that we have an investor who's put money into 2 separate pieces of property. One is residential and one is commercial, and wants to develop it. But one possible way is to develop one in residential and one commercial, and I'm not, it's not my decision. And I'm not sure that it needs to be made, but I think we're ready. We're not ready. We don't have enough information in order to be able to pursue this. So that's this side of the fence that I was sitting on.
I am for rezoning it to mixed use, and I think that follows what we did with those 6 units that we rezoned from industrial, which I think Old Town has had a lot of these random zonings that just kind of lived on because no one was gonna tear anything down and rebuild, but now that everything's burnt down, we have this opportunity to fix some of the zoning. And as that industrial one that we rezoned to residential, I think this is also a lot that, especially being that the residential's on the northern half and the commercial's on the southern half, I think this falls in that same category where it was kind of miszoned. It wasn't developed how it was zoned. I'm pretty sure the house that burned down was on the commercial.
Yes.
So the commercial was residential before. I think that this goes along with fixing past mistakes now that it's an empty lot. And I think that the residents of Old Town, if this is just never comes back to us and is just either a duplex or a single, I think they'd be happy with that. And if it does come back to us, then we'll be able to get their input and we'll be able to apply the new comp plan. So I am for this in that I think it goes along what was originally planned from original town. It just fixing the messed up zoning. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, I agree that the current zoning defies logic. Oh, thank you. So I think the current zoning does sort of defy logic. And when the land is developed, it does make sense to have common zoning. I am sharing the fence a bit with you, Lonnie, as far as when do we make these choices? I don't know that zoning mixed use would preclude anything. Are there examples you can think of, Lonnie, that might come out of the comprehensive plan that could not be built or used somehow on mixed use?
I don't know that I can point out anything that couldn't be used, but what I'm seeing is more flexibility in the mixed use designation that might not necessarily fit within the plan of the area. In other words, I think mixed use is actually quite broad. Maybe broader than certainly broader than BC and certainly broader than RL.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm not even thinking of it in terms of those uses. What I'm really thinking about it is in terms of the idea that it's in the only flexibility we have at that point is the SDP piece. And the RL, the single-family homes can just be built there. And with, and I think duplexes as well. And those might not necessarily fit the character of the property or the area. But again, it's so far down the road that I'm still concerned that I'm concerned that we're too soon on this. That's my concern. The fact that the property is vacant and is going to stay vacant until somebody comes up with a plan is really the issue. And what we have is an applicant who says, I have a plan, but I just don't know what it is yet. I don't know what it is yet.
David.
I think rezoning to MU is a benefit to the town of Superior because it creates the opportunity it sets the stage for a more cohesive development on those parcels, as opposed to more granular, smaller developments. The allowed uses, according to Section 16650 commercial districts, I do not find any of these to be objectionable for the most part. And I think it helps to straighten out our zoning map. I think it could be a net positive, regardless of who the owner and ultimate developer of the property is.
I'm very sorry because I would really like to support this, but I think it's premature too. I can remember, it's all very well to say that we'll get to see the SDP, but I can remember at least one SDP coming out of the new downtown where basically all of the criteria for the downtown design were met, except I think they asked for one height variation or something like that. And we couldn't really do anything about it.
Made a recommendation.
And so I'm reluctant. I mean, I agree. I think having it rezoned as one area and doing the whole area in one as one development is the right thing to do. But I don't think I can make this recommendation. I don't think, personally, I don't want to make it this recommendation without having a better idea of what's going on there, because I'm not relying, I don't feel as confident that the SDP actually gives us that much control over what gets built there. And if somebody came back with, I couldn't I looked back at the last proposal to develop this mixed use, and I couldn't find the minutes of the meeting anywhere. I found the proposal from the developer, but I couldn't find the minutes of the meeting to see why we objected it. But I'm guessing it as the usual things in that area were height, traffic, those kind of things. And so much as I would like to, I can't at this point personally favor voting for this recommendation. Okay, I think we've all said what we want to say. I guess we probably need a vote, do we?
Somebody want me to make the motion here?
Yes, why don't you make a motion?
Give me 1 second, let me get to, thank you.
Yep.
I will move Town of Superior Planning Commission Resolution Number PC-6, Series 2025, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Superior recommending approval of an application to rezone lots 1 and 2 of Block 2 of Minks Edition and lots 1 and 2 of Block 7 of Minks Edition, case number RZN 2025-03.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Chairman Harper,
No.
Vice Chair Rose,
No.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Yes.
Commissioner Mojo,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Shanahan.
Still feeling a little on the fence, but I'm going to vote yes.
Okay.
And I hope that the town board takes a serious look at all of these issues as well, because I feel like our votes are on the fence, and it does deserve careful consideration.
Okay, I think that passes, well, I mean, there's 6 of us, right? 4-2.
Thank you. Thank you very much. More let you down. This concludes the hearing.
Uh,
Yep.
We just have have some updates to do.
We have other business to do, but.
You guys are good to go.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you this evening. Yeah,
Good luck.
thank you.
You'll see that SDP soon.
Okay.
Okay, we have lost our attendees.
I'm guessing those were other students.
One was the professor,
Well.
and the other one, I think, was one of the students.
Oh, you mean the other attendees? Okay,
Yes.
that makes good sense.
That's why they had no comments.
They have other homework to do.
Okay, so the item number 5 was the rezone of Town 15. We canceled that. We canceled it because, it's on here because we sent out notices to folks. And so in order to ensure that we let people know ahead of time that we weren't going to have hear it, because you've already made a recommendation, the town's application hasn't changed. The council started the hearing, tabled it, and is now bringing it back. So I apologize that it was on here, but it's canceled, and we're not going to discuss the rezone of Town 15 this evening. However, on my update, I wanted to provide you with some information on parks and open space data, because there was a lot of discussion, and Lonnie had requested that we learn more about how our parks and open space percentages are broken down. And so I just wanted to follow up on that and give you some of the information that's in the map that Alex in our department, in the planning department, put together. So basically 42.2% of the town is parks, open space, and water features. And I made myself some notes here. So water features includes ponds, reservoirs, and water detention areas. And then 39.6% of Superior is parks and open space. 32.1% is open space. 7.5% is developed parks. 44.5% of our boundary abuts city and or county open space. And then to our west, there's more than 2,605 acres of open space. I do have an additional breakdown to get you to 100%. So 42.2 is the parks and open space, and then that leaves 40.8 as being residential, commercial, utilities, town facilities, and vacant lots, and then 17% as right-of-way. And then I have definitions.
That doesn't, sorry, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought the Parks and Recreation Department, don't they have a more detailed breakdown?
So this is their detailed breakdown, and then they have a list of like how how they define open space, parks, recreation, and then street, lawn, and greenway areas. So like they are all based on how they're maintained by the town. So the map that you've seen before that's on our website, that says it's the Parks, Trails, and Open Space website, breaks it down the way that it does, and these percentages are given to you based on our maintenance and the definitions from the Parks Department of how we maintain those properties. And I can send, I'll send this information to you. I put it together today, like I was finally like, I had like all the different pieces in different places, and so I was like, oh, like here's all of it in one thing. So I will send you the definitions of open space and parks from the Parks Department that talks about how they maintain each of the areas, and then you can see in the map how it is spread throughout town and why we base it on those, why we call things what we call them.
May I ask?
Yeah. That's why I put this here.
Could you please send this out?
Yeah,
To
absolutely.
us.
Yes.
All right, here, so 42.2% is parks, open space, and water features. That's the big picture. Of that, but 39% is parks and open space. Therefore, the difference is about 2.5 some odd percent is water. Okay? Then we've got 39.6% is parks and open space, but the portion of that is 32% is open space and 7.5% is park.
That's right.
Okay, so just so that so 7.5% of the land in the city of the town of Superior, 7.5% is a park.
It's developed parks,
Developed
yes.
parks, okay.
As defined by-
That's all of Purple
yeah.
Park, Community Park, Founder's Park,
Wildflower Park.
Wildflower Park.
Right, which is lots of space labeled a park,
Yep.
and so we classify it as park even though it's lots of space, but the park part, the play area park stuff, like ball fields,
Yes.
I still want to get that, if it's possible, is real use of space that is ball fields, playgrounds.
That's the 7.5%.
Okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry?
That's the 7.5%.
No, it's the 7.5%.
Developed parks.
So when you say developed parks, Purple Park is the park? Or is that not part of the 7 point? Like, there's a lot of Purple Park area that's.
It depends on the maintenance.
Is it the dark green there?
It is.
on the map?
It's okay, if it's
Yes.
7.5%, I'll live with it, but I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it.
Yeah, when I send it out to you, he also broke it down, yes.
So
Purple
developed park means-
Purple Park is more than one designated zone or like area
It's more than
in
one.
this.
Some of
Yeah.
it's open
Some of
spaces.
it
Some of it is open
Some of
space.
it is open space, some
I'll
of it
live
is
with the
park.
7.5%, that's
Okay,
good.
yeah, so
All right.
there, yes, it's not, the whole thing isn't
Okay.
one.
I'm good with that. 44% abuts open space outside of the town.
Yeah,
Goes
so
down
like
Castle.
All McCaslin,
like all of this,
Coyote Ridge.
yeah,
this here,
all right.
and then all of this.
There's a gazillion acres
And this.
of right outside, west of town, that's all open space.
That's right.
I look at
Larger
it
than the
every multiple times a day as I'm walking the dogs. I look at all of that stuff. I get it. So, how much of the open space is Coyote Ridge?
1,500 acres.
But of
Yeah, I
the
don't-
32.3%, 32.1%, that's labeled open space, what percentage of that, this is just a question.
No.
Is the Coyote Ridge piece that we got a couple of years ago? In other words, if we hadn't had Coyote Ridge, how would it change the numbers? I don't need the answer tonight. I just want to, but the piece for me, and I want to thank you for doing this, is that we have now identified that 7.5% of our land in the town of Superior is a developed park
That's right.
for people to play in. Not walk in, not travel in, not let my dogs run loose, which I don't, because it's not allowed. All that kind of stuff, it's 7.5%. Got it. Okay, thank you.
I have a question on this one. I have a question on the coloring.
Yeah, it's hard to see up here.
So-
There's,
Light green
is
Open
open
space.
space.
dark green, I'm assuming is
It's-
mode.
Yes.
But then there's things in here that are, I think would be considered water features.
That are, yes, that are not,
Like-
right. Yeah, no.
Reservoir is open space, but like privately owned, so it's not counted in this number.
Right. It has to do,
Privately
yeah,
owned
there,
Space that is not counted.
because it's
Well,
not maintained, yes.
we don't, it's not ours, so that we don't have to worry, we don't do anything to it. Supposedly
Yeah.
somebody else does.
Right.
I mean, so,
And I'll send you this map with it.
Sorry, Zacharias, sorry. I'm letting my mind go.
What about the-
Zacharias says, oh, right now is open space.
Yeah.
You know.
But like Audrey Reservoir, and a lot of people are talking about these wildlife corridors, and like the wildlife isn't gonna be like, oh, this is privately owned, I'm not gonna run through there, like it
No,
still
they're not.
counts.
This is RL.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I'll, like I said, I'll send this with a picture, with the map that like you can like zoom in and click on and stuff. Perfect.
I definitely think there should be a section about this in the comp plan.
There will be.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll make sure the definitions and stuff are in what I send.
And I just want to make sure that I got the developed parks piece. Like,
Yes.
that's community park, ball fields, all that kind of stuff. And we're not talking about the area in between, outside of community park where people just sort of walk and look at.
Yeah.
There's a trail down there, isn't there?
It's a trail, but I wouldn't consider that a
No,
developed
you'll-
park.
No, and you can see they're like part of community parks, dark green.
Dark
and the
green.
Parts light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
think they're
I'm good. I want to thank you. I've been asking for this.
I know,
and
for a
you-
while,
and you
yeah.
promised and you came through.
Alex is amazing in GIS, so we'll just all thank him publicly.
Alex.
No, Alex Hafling in the planning department. So Alex Bullen and Alex Hafling both work in GIS for the town. They complement each other very well, but Alex Hafling is who gave me this information and broke it down and gave me the definitions and all of the things. So,
And in this map, like Town 15's grayed out, so it's not being included.
that's correct. Yeah. So
Not included at all.
it's not included in parks open
'Cause it's
space
not
because it's
parks
not
open
zoned
space.
that way currently. Yeah.
No.
Those animals better.
They're
Go
not,
around.
they're not allowed. They're not allowed to go through town.
And what's more, prairie dogs aren't allowed to burrow on it either.
If you would like to participate or speak up as a resident, not as a planning commissioner, the Town 15 rezone will be next week at the heard next week for council. But you cannot talk about the way we talked about it for planning commission. You can talk about your feelings about it as a resident.
Right.
If that makes sense.
And that brings me to another point, which is, I asked Matt if I could get a copy of the appraisal, and he said it was confidential. So
Yes,
I asked him if it was going to be part of, basically, I was expecting something in the town board package, but the package hadn't been posted this afternoon, so.
It's not yet. The packet will get posted probably tomorrow.
And will it say something about the,
It will give information from the appraisal, yes.
good.
I don't like beating a dead horse, but I'm going to beat this dead horse. You and I have chatted, I have also said something to David. I think that there are pieces of information that are going to be presented to the council on Monday that would have been important for us as a planning commission to have known and included as part of our deliberations during our determination as to what our recommendation was. And the fact that they are not, and that part of our deliberations, and we are not going to redeliberate, and I'm not suggesting, that the outcome would have been different, but I'm concerned that these new pieces of information or additional pieces of information are not part of the deliberations, that we have a responsibility as a planning commission to utilize in developing our recommendation. And the fact that we are not going to consider this again as part of this, I'm troubled by that, because I think it lessens the importance of our deliberations in this whole deliberative process. And that distresses me, because I think that the Planning Commission is much more, and should be much more involved, and is much more important than that. And I've said my piece.
I have a request. When, I assume you are presenting, we got some pretty significant comment through email, and that, while it exists in our records, that is not published. Would it be possible for you to do just a quick summary of how many people reached out? And, kind of where the opinions fell, how many, what the kind of basic points were? Because I thought we received some very thoughtful emails from people.
They all went to the town board though as well, didn't they?
I think.
Right, but they did not go to, but there's no way for residents to see those.
Oh, we see residents didn't see it.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I don't feel like an email that comes into our inbox carries the same weight as somebody coming and making a public comment. And I would just like to recognize that there were various points of view expressed by residents.
You've probably written up, did you have to did staff rewrite a recommendation for the town council?
No, it's the same recommendation from when you heard it the first time.
So it hasn't changed?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to go back and see what it was.
As far as...
No, our recommendation didn't change, but have you developed a new memo for the town council on this subject?
Yes, yes, so it's an edited version of,
It's an edited
like
version.
an updated version, I should say. I added, and it's clear what's changed.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Additional information.
Yeah.
Approaching next week's hearing, obviously, if one of us were to come and speak at it, it's in our own resident capacity and not as us up here. Question on gray area, I guess. As many of us volunteered last week at the Chilean Beer Fest.
That was my next point. Thank you for bringing it up.
Am I a planning commissioner there, or am I a volunteer and a resident? Just because my thing is I got a lot of verbal feedback that went very much against what we saw in the public hearing, and a lot of feedback of frustration of people wanting their voices heard that weren't. here present in the room. Can that be brought up? Can that be shared? Or is that us speaking in our planning commission capacity and not as residents?
Oh, that's a good question.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. When you ask, can that be brought up, do you mean can people speak to you as a planning commissioner outside of the meetings?
Can I share that, or can I bring that up at a town council meeting?
Well, you were really there as a volunteer, not as a planning commissioner.
Well, no. So let me make it a little bit broader while you're noodling this question, the answer to this question. So I'm giving you a little break.
Thank you.
How many responses did we get? Did we get a lot of information? We spent 4 hours there asking people to fill out. Do we have information from that yet as to what people said? I mean, was that going to be part of today's update?
I have preliminary numbers from the consulting team that they just shared with us. So I didn't have a chance to put it in the slides, but I do have this update. A big thank you to everyone who volunteered at Chili Fest and made it possible for me to not be there. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. I was escorting children to soccer games, so that was super fun. But staff and you all got so many people to respond. We had over 200 and
He was dragging them down. And people were walking with beer steins, and he was grabbing them around the neck and bringing them over and said, "Fill this out, or you're never going to have a beer again."
I was just trying to compete with Lonnie. He was taking all my people. He's a magnet.
Well, I think it was a very good thing to do, so thank you to organizing it, Renee, and thank you guys for participating in it.
I actually got questions about, could people fill out the survey online?
Yeah.
And I feel like more people would have participated if they could have done that. And I also think if it had been online, it could have been formatted just a little bit differently, where you have a brief statement of what the option is and then a little bit of actual explanation. Because some of the options were a little bit complicated.
And so now I can put you on the spot. So here's the question that I think. Those are pieces of information that we garnered at Chili Fest that I'm recommending to staff to be included as part of the presentation on the I guess it's Monday the 22nd, right, to the town council as it relates to Town 15, okay? And so the bigger question is, if I appear there and decide that I want to speak, I'm not speaking as a planning commissioner and giving my personal views, but can I appear as a planning commissioner and talk about the views that were told to me when I stood in front of the Town of Superior Planning Commission tent saying, "So, what are your 3 priorities for the town?"
My answer would be, I think that you all can make recommendations to staff and to Renee about what to include based on those conversations, but I do think that at next week's meeting that all of your comments need to be as a citizen and not as a planning commissioner. That would be my answer.
I think that's a very, very wise.
I expected that answer. I think that makes sense. Chairman Harper, I might just share with you an email of my experience that I had, both in verbal, communication and just what I received just in my volunteer capacity at the Planning Commission tent, and that'll go to you. If I were to speak at next Monday's thing, it would obviously be completely personal as myself as a resident of South Rock Creek.
Interested to hear how it turned out, actually.
Yeah. It was very exciting. I felt like we got a ton of great feedback and just buy-in, and it just felt really nice. People were excited to be asked too, right? I can just address to you right now what my priorities are, and it'll be read. Yes,
Do you want to hear the top 4?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Top was enhanced maintenance of current parks, trails, and open spaces. The second most was purchase and build new parks and open space, including recreational, cultural facilities, and libraries, etc. The third was incentivize filling vacant retail space in existing commercial areas, in parentheses, through fee waivers and financial assistance. And then the fourth was maintain current level of town services, programs, and amenities. So we'll have I'll give you the whole breakdown and stuff once we have have it more laid out. They just did a tally right now.
Great, thank you.
Cool.
And then we have our second open house scheduled for October 23rd at the community center in the open area again. I'm working with them with the consulting team to figure out what it's going to look like, how we can make it different from the first open house. They've heard from you all and we've heard from you all ideas. So we're trying to think of different ways of presenting the information and what kinds of questions and what interactive measures we can use, still at an open house setting, but maybe not putting sticky dots on a piece of paper or some other ways of interacting with folks at that session. So more to come, because we just started putting together ideas at our meeting Monday. Yeah, yesterday. Yesterday was Monday. Yesterday. Feels like a very long time ago.
Have you thought about giving people sticky dots, but a certain number, and each sticky dot being a different, this should be housing, this should be open space, this should be, commercial, or something
Yes,
for affordable
switching it
housing,
up,
or
yeah.
switching it
Like,
up
the way-
so that
yeah.
people are forced to make a choice.
Yeah. Yeah,
among
we're
trade-offs.
that's kind of, yes, that's a good idea, and we're kind of pondering how that might look. What we don't want is to ask the same questions that we've already asked and get different feedback, but to ask more directed questions and get specific feedback and so the idea of giving everyone a certain number of things, so you have to prioritize, is one way of doing that, so that you can kind of start to not get everyone's ideas on everything, but to make people think about what, if you only can do this on one site, what site, and you have to do this on one site, what one site, you only get one green and one red and one yellow, sticky dot type thing. So, yeah, the brainstorming like that is kind of where we're at right now on how to interact with folks.
I would love to see something with the upcoming Sundance Film Festival sort of location, something.
Ooh.
I heard a presentation on that at lunch, and it seems to be somewhat indeterminate at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if it's coming or not?
No, it's definitely coming,
Well,
but
no.
exactly. They're talking
What we're doing.
about building, they're talking about converting some of the buildings, the old Boulder Public Library building, into a venue, and building other venues in different places, but at the moment, it's coming in 2027, isn't it?
27, yes.
I mean, at the moment, that seems to be sort of a rather, let's just say it's rather high level in terms of what it's actually going to involve. But the person who was working was I think he's the owner of the Highland City Club, actually, which is the place opposite the library in Boulder on Arapahoe. And this is a gentleman who's lived here for 50 years and has clearly been involved in, I mean, he owned the Boulderado, he helped build the St. Julian. I'm not saying he helped build, I mean, he's been involved in a lot of Boulder projects. And the interesting thing he said about one of them was that they would really like the state to put in a railway line from DIA to Boulder so that people don't have to drive. They're trying to turn downtown Boulder into a pedestrian-friendly area where you don't have to have a car to come visit. That was my... I mean, so you can see that
There's a bus.
They are clearly thinking way outside my box.
That's a great segue to our next meeting, which is scheduled for October 21st, where we're going to hear from Ellen, our Economic Development Manager. And I'll make sure she includes Sundance in part. I'm sure she already has that because she talks about that frequently now, and she will be for the next 2 years. So, but I'll make sure that she provides an update on that too, and what she's working on related to Sundance, as well as all of the other things in downtown. I kind of gave her, we have a standing monthly meeting, I kind of give her my updates from you all and questions, and, so she knows what you guys might ask, or at least has an idea of what you might ask, and hopefully has prepared something that will answer some of those questions and maybe make you think of other questions.
So may I ask, can we go back to the second bullet?
Yes, the draft plan.
When?
It's a great question. I don't have an answer for.
I didn't think you did, but I just figured I'd ask.
Right now, we're still thinking that, there'll be a draft plan in late October, November, so that the final approval by the council will likely be in, January sometime. But having a draft that we all look at will be,
Late October, November.
Yeah.
Hopefully before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because I don't want to wait, and then it just pushes everything, and that we don't want that. So they are working while we're working on what we present for community feedback in October. They're also drafting. So that's part of this engagement piece is how do we engage people while a draft is being written in a way that we can, prioritize, say this is a priority and this is a priority without changing the entire, all of the language, basically. We want to be able to prioritize at this point, or say there's support, this is how people envision, what takes precedent over other things. So, yeah.
And the 23rd event at the community center, 6 o'clock, or?
I'm trying to.
Yeah, I think it'll be like the last time. I think it was what is it, 4 to 6, or was it 5 to 7? I think it was 5 to 7. Yeah, I don't remember what I booked it for.
I thought you said, is that considered a PC meeting? Is that why you're saying October the 23rd?
No, that's October 23rd is our open house at the community center. October 21st is the economic development manager update for the planning commission meeting. 2 things in 1 week. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
Why we get paid so much?
5 to 7. So 5 to 7 is the open house.
Will you want volunteers for that?
I might send an email to see who of all of you will be around and attend, and then depending on that, the consulting team will be here for that, kind of the same way they were the last time. So it's really more about being present and available to like talk to people for you all. Not necessarily needing to like stand at a particular spot and answer questions.
Sort of like the first time.
That's right.
Oh,
That's all I've got.
okay. Let's see, if I turn over the page, I have item 7, adjourn. We're adjourned.